Hi, this is TradingETFs.com. Today is March 8th, 2016, and this is an ETF update on some major market ETFs and also a few of the open positions. The first ETF here is the Diamond ETF. You can see that the long-term oscillators crossed above the zero line, and on previous videos I've mentioned that when the long-term oscillator crosses above the zero line, we'll get a pullback in price. The majority of the times, it doesn't happen 100% of the time, but many times it does. So now that we're getting this pullback in price after it's crossed above the zero line, we're waiting for the short-term oscillator to move from extreme overbought down to at least the zero line, and then that would be the time to go ahead and enter a long trade on the Diamond ETF. I'll show you what the short-term oscillator looks like, and you'll see that it was extremely overbought on this move to the upside since mid-February, and it stayed overbought for quite a number of days. Every time it came down, the oscillator and price turned back to the upside. Now we're getting a pretty decent move to the downside. My expectation is that we're going to see this oscillator, short-term oscillator, come down closer to the zero line, which may put the price somewhere in the 167, 166 range. And then that would be the time to go ahead and enter into a long trade, provided that the long-term oscillator stays above the zero line. So I'll let you know. I would expect this move or this trade to shape up over the next couple of days here. We should know that the market has pulled back and would then be ready to move back to the upside. So I'll let you, I'll give you updates over the next few days on what I see developing here on this particular trade. Again, it's on a buy watch, so I'm not actually issuing a buy signal yet, but it is just in position to enter into a buy trade, providing everything sets up the right way. Let me also just show you the Spider ETF. This is the SPY Standard & Poor's ETF. You can see same situation here. We've spent 4 days above the zero line. We're getting this pullback in price. My expectation is we'll probably get it in the 196, 195 price range before the short-term oscillator is come down enough to be able to take a position on a trade. So right now we've got the Diamond ETF. We've also got the Spider ETF that is setting up for on the buy watch list. And again, you can see that the oscillator's already moved lower than the previous low a couple days ago. So I expect the oscillator on the short term to get probably to the zero line, maybe even just a little bit more, which will put us in that, at least in that 196, 195 range, maybe even down to 194. But we'll see as that trade develops, or that we'll see as the pullback develops. Again, putting this on a buy watch doesn't mean that I'm going to actually issue a buy signal, because we've got to see how it develops and where it's at when the short-term oscillator moves to oversold. That'll determine whether we enter a trade or not, but it is definitely on a buy watch right now. Let me also show you the QQQ. Now this ETF has actually been lagging, and you can see here that it hasn't got above the zero line, and we're getting the price decline. We've had 2 days of price decline, and so my expectation here is that we would see price continue to come down, but most likely see this long-term oscillator continue to move to the upside. So again, I don't have this on a buy watch. It's got to cross above the zero line, and so we've got the Diamond ETF, the SPY ETF on a buy watch. QQQ has got some catch-up to do here, and I'll update you over the next couple of days, because I do expect the pullback to end over the next couple of days, and that'll determine what we want to enter a long trade on. Let me also mention this FXE, which is the Euro currency ETF. And you can see here that mid-February price got extremely overbought. Long-term oscillator was in the overbought area, up 8%. And you can see that it's lost its momentum to the upside. Price has come down all the way from let's just call it 111 down to the 106.25 area. And the oscillator has now been moving sideways for the last 5 days. definitely last 4 days. And you can see here price has moved up over the last few days here. And what it's doing is it's putting itself in position so that when the ECB announces their decision on Thursday coming up 2 days from now, this next move is going to determine the direction of the euro. And what I mean by that is that if we get a move to the downside, it's going to take the oscillator down below the zero line. And that's going to set up a move probably back down to the 103.50 area. In the event the ECB comes out with news that takes the euro to the upside, then it's going to move this oscillator back to the upside. That would be a successful retest of the zero line, and we're probably going to see the euro, or excuse me, the FXE go back up to the 110.75 area or 111 area. So we are definitely just continuing to watch this. We do have an open trade right now on the EUO, which is the inverse euro ETF. And so it's the short euro. So my expectation is that we were going to see the euro decline, and we got involved in the trade a few days back here. And so what I was looking at here in the long-term oscillator is that it was starting to accelerate to the upside, and you can see these dots were widening on this move here. It was just kind of going, slowly to the upside, slow to the upside, started increasing to the upside. The gaps were wide, stayed wide, and then all of a sudden, in the last 4 days, we've pretty much been going sideways, just like the FXE ETF is. And this next move, or the move that's going to come between now and Thursday, is going to determine what happens with this ETF. So if we see news come out that takes the euro to the downside, we're going to see EUO move up, most likely to this $27 price range. And that's the open trade that we currently have right now. And also we'll know in the next couple of days what we're going to do with this particular trade, whether we're going to close it at a slight loss, at least as of right now, it would be just a slight loss, or we're going to hold it, and we're going to see when we're going to close the trade. So we should know something in the next 1 to 3 days on this trade here. And let me also just update you, same situation with the US dollar. You can see it's going to look very similar to the EUO, which is obviously it's the inverse of the euro in terms of the way the dollar moves. So you can see here that the dollar was moving to the upside when it's now been going sideways for 5 days. This is going to determine the direction of the US dollar as well. So I'm expecting a pretty decent move in these currencies over the next couple of days, and that'll determine what's going to, what the direction is going to be over the next couple of weeks. So we're waiting for either a breakdown of the US dollar, or we're waiting for a pretty decent move to the upside in the US dollar. So I'll keep you up to date on that trade as well. Or at least that ETF, because I don't currently have a open trade on that right now. Let me go to a couple trades that we do have open, and the first one here is GASL, and it's a natural gas ETF. You can see here that the oscillator had been going sideways for actually a pretty decent amount of time frame in terms of the way the oscillator moves. We didn't really get big moves to the upside, really didn't get big moves to the downside, although the price is going to move pretty dramatically. When you're getting down in the $2 price range, obviously, you get pretty big moves percentage-wise, but still overall, the move wasn't really getting, huge moves to the downside in terms of the closing price. I know it's tough to say, or tough to say that, because you could have a 15% move to the downside, And many people are going to say that that's a big move, and it really is. But when you're dealing with 3-time ETFs, then you do have these type of moves that you kind of have to bear. But holding on to the position, you can see that we finally did move to the upside, and it's gone from roughly the 160 range up to 440 yesterday, and then we got a pretty big move to the downside in terms of price. But notice that the long-term oscillator is just about on the verge of crossing above the zero line, and so it looks to me as if this move is just starting, and that we should be able to see some pretty big moves again back to the upside. My original price objective was 550, and we got up to the 450 level, and the way it looks right now, and obviously we're going to know in the next day or two that if we get a turnaround back in price back to the upside, it is going to take the long-term oscillator back above the zero line, and that is definitely going to suggest that the move is going to accelerate to the upside. So that's just a short update on the on the GASL ETF. And then the one last one that I wanted to update you on is on the dust, and this is also another 3-time ETF inverse of the gold miners, and you can see here that we're still extremely oversold, and we got a decent move today, about 11-12%, and we're right about at that $4 price range. And you can also see that in terms of GDX, we're starting to lose some momentum to the upside, and so you can see the price here. We had a pretty big move to the downside today, and you can see the oscillator was extremely overbought. And so what we're looking for is we're just looking for an inverse move. My expectation is to see GDX continue to move to the downside, and then that obviously would set up dust to move to the upside. My expectation on price was that we were going to get to about the $7 price range, and although we're not really seeing a big move yet to the upside, it definitely looks like it's setting up for a move. And if I look at the short-term oscillator, you can see that even though we got pullbacks in the price over the last 10 days or so, the oscillator, short-term oscillator, did not pull back. It stayed above the previous value in the oscillator back on mid-February all the way into late February. And you can see now, even today, after today's move, we're almost back to a high over the last couple weeks in terms of where the short-term oscillator is at. So my expectation is that if the GDX or the gold miners are in fact pulling back now, then we are going to see the move to the upside on dust, and we're going to see the short-term oscillator take a move to the upside. So right now, that's an open trade, and I will keep you updated on that as we go over the next couple days. A lot of these moves I'm expecting, or these ETFs that I'm going over today, I'm expecting these moves to resolve themselves over the next couple days. So what it looks like is that we're going to get some type of a move in currencies due to the ECB meeting on Thursday. That's going to set up the direction for the major market ETFs like the Diamond, the SPY, and the QQQ. It's also setting up the direction for dust. And GASL is a little bit on its own at this point. It's not necessarily related to the currency market like the rest of these ETFs are, but still these moves are going to get resolved over the next couple of days and determine the next direction. So I will definitely keep you up to date on what happens over the next couple of days. So that's about it for tonight, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.